There are betrayals that break trust. And then there are betrayals so calculated, they destroy entire lives. This is the story of a mother who chose to sacrifice her own daughter to protect her secret affair. And by the time the truth came out, the damage was irreversible. Part 1. The perfect image. To the outside world, Caroline Bennett was untouchable. 52 years old, elegant, composed, always dressed in soft, neutral tones that made her look gentle and refined. She spoke calmly, smiled warmly, and carried herself like a woman who had endured hardship with dignity. A devoted single mother, a respected member of the community, a woman who lived for her daughter. That daughter was Olivia, 27, independent, loyal, the kind of person who defended her mother in every argument. Olivia truly believed Caroline had sacrificed everything for her, and that belief would become the weapon used against her. Because behind Caroline's carefully curated image, something had already begun. It started with small things, lingering glances, private jokes, late-night text notifications. The object of those glances was Ethan Miller, the husband of Olivia's best friend, Ava. Ethan was 33, successful, calm, measured, the kind of man who made others feel secure just by standing near them. And Caroline noticed. At first, it looked innocent. Compliments that lasted a second too long, subtle touches on the arm, offers to help with paperwork when Ethan mentioned stress at work. No one questioned it. Not Ava, not Olivia, because who suspects a mother? But obsession rarely announces itself loudly. It grows quietly, strategically. And Caroline was patient, very patient. The shift no one saw. Over the next few months, something changed. Caroline began inserting herself into Ava and Ethan's life more often. She invited them to dinner, offered relationship advice, even insisted Ethan call her Caroline instead of Mrs. Bennett. She said it made her feel younger. Olivia laughed it off. She trusted her mother completely. What she didn't know was that private conversations had already begun. Conversations that didn't include Ava, or her. It started with emotional intimacy. Caroline knew how to position herself as understanding. She listened when Ethan talked about feeling pressure at work. She sympathized when he mentioned arguments with Ava. She never crossed a visible line, not at first. Instead, she planted doubt. "You deserve someone who truly appreciates you," she once told him. A harmless sentence, unless it isn't. And when emotional dependence forms, physical boundaries fall faster than anyone expects. The affair began quietly, carefully, and Caroline made sure no one would suspect her, because she already had a backup plan. Part 2. The setup. The first sign of disaster came on a Thursday evening. Ava arrived at Olivia's apartment shaking, not crying. Shaking. Rage does that. In her hand was her phone. "You need to explain this." She didn't sit down. She didn't greet her. She opened a message thread and held it up like evidence in a courtroom. Messages between Ethan and Olivia. Flirtatious, explicit, intimate. Photos attached. Voice notes. Late-night timestamps. Olivia stared at the screen as if it belonged to someone else's life. Because none of it was real. "I didn't send these," she said. And it sounded weak. Because innocence always sounds weaker than screenshots. Ava's voice cracked. "You think I don't recognize my own husband's number?" That was the first fracture, but the real damage came 3 minutes later, when Caroline walked in, calm, composed, concerned, as if she had been summoned by fate. "What's happening?" she asked softly. Ava turned the phone toward her. Caroline read the messages slowly. She didn't overreact. That was the brilliance of it. She didn't scream at Olivia. She didn't defend her. She sighed. A long, disappointed sigh. "I was afraid of this," she murmured. 3 words, and suddenly the narrative shifted. Olivia looked at her mother in disbelief. Afraid of what? Caroline placed a gentle hand over Ava's. "She's been distant lately, secretive. I didn't want to believe she was capable of something like this." That sentence did more damage than the fake messages, because now doubt had structure. Now it had reinforcement. Now it had a mother's credibility behind it. And when a mother subtly questions her own daughter's character, people listen. The isolation begins within 48 hours. The story spread. Not dramatically, quietly, strategically. Ava told 2 mutual friends. Those 2 told 5 more. Screenshots circulated. Group chats buzzed. Olivia's phone filled with unread messages, some asking for explanations, others simply saying, "I didn't expect this from you." But the most devastating shift wasn't social. It was personal. Caroline stopped defending her. At family dinner that Sunday, when Olivia tried to explain, Caroline interrupted gently. "Sweetheart, if you made a mistake, we can fix it. But lying will only make it worse." Mistake. The word landed like a verdict. Olivia felt the ground disappear beneath her. She wasn't just being accused, she was being slowly rewritten. And Caroline was holding the pen. The fake evidence multiplies. 3 days later, a new piece of proof appeared. A bank transfer. Ethan had allegedly sent Olivia money. The amount wasn't huge, but it was enough to imply secrecy. Enough to suggest something transactional. Olivia had never received it, but the screenshot was convincing. The account number matched hers, except it didn't. There was 1 digit different. Just 1. No one noticed, except Ethan. And that was the first crack in Caroline's control. Because Ethan wasn't innocent in this story, but he wasn't stupid either. He began noticing patterns. The messages sent to Olivia used certain phrases he had only ever heard Caroline say. Subtle, but specific. "You deserve someone who sees you." "You're misunderstood." "People don't appreciate your depth." Caroline's emotional vocabulary, recycled, weaponized. Ethan felt something shift in his stomach. Not guilt, fear. Because if this wasn't Olivia, then who was orchestrating it? The double life. What Ava didn't know, what Olivia didn't know, was that the affair had already been physical for months. It hadn't started with lust. It started with validation. Caroline positioned herself as the woman who truly understood Ethan. She told him Ava didn't respect him. She told him he was wasting his potential. She framed herself as safe, confidential, a confidant. And when emotional dependence formed, the line blurred. But once Ava started questioning Ethan's distance, Caroline knew exposure was close. So she made a decision. If suspicion was inevitable, redirect it. Destroy the easiest target, her daughter. Because betrayal from a friend is believable. Betrayal from a mother? Unthinkable. And Caroline relied on that. The public humiliation. The breaking point came at a small gathering. A birthday party, neutral territory, safe. Or so Olivia thought. Ava confronted her publicly, in front of 10 people. "Why didn't you just tell me?" she asked. The room went silent. Phones were already out, recording. Caroline stepped forward. Not to defend Olivia, but to appear heartbroken. "I raised her better than this," she whispered. And just like that, Olivia became the villain of her own life. That night, she received a message from her employer. "We've been made aware of personal matters circulating online. Reputation spreads faster than correction, and correction rarely trends." Olivia lost her job 2 weeks later. Not officially because of scandal, but timing tells its own story. Caroline visited her the next day. brought soup, sat on the couch, touched her hand gently. If you had just been honest with me. The manipulation was almost surgical. Caroline wasn't just hiding an affair. She was erasing her daughter's credibility, and she almost succeeded. Part 3. The exposure. Ethan was the weak link. Manipulators often miscalculate one thing: guilt. And guilt doesn't stay quiet forever. One evening, while Caroline was at his house, he noticed something small. She stepped into another room to take a call. She came back holding a phone he had never seen before. Not the one she normally used. This one was older, simpler, prepaid. When she realized he noticed, she smiled too quickly. "It's nothing," she said. That was the moment suspicion hardened into certainty. Later that night, Ethan checked the fake account again. He compared timestamps, locations, phrases, and then he remembered something. Caroline once sent him a screenshot. The corner of the image revealed the battery icon style of an older phone model. The same model she had just used. Tiny details. But details don't lie. He confronted her the next day. Not angrily. Calmly. "Did you create the account?" She didn't flinch. That's how practiced she was. "I think you're projecting your guilt onto me." Gaslighting works best when delivered softly. But Ethan pushed. And that's when Caroline made her only real mistake. She sent a message to Ava from the fake account, but she forgot to disable her home Wi-Fi. Metadata traced the IP address, straight to her house. Ava didn't scream. She didn't explode. She went silent. And silence is more terrifying than rage. She showed Ethan the data. He showed her the second phone. And suddenly, the narrative collapsed. Not slowly, instantly. The final confrontation, Ava drove to Olivia's apartment. She didn't knock. She walked in and said, "I was wrong." 2 words Olivia had almost stopped hoping to hear. But apologies don't repair destroyed reputations. They don't restore lost jobs. They don't rebuild trust. The confrontation with Caroline happened 2 days later. Family present, evidence printed, screenshots laid out, the second phone placed on the table. Caroline denied it at first, then blamed Ethan, then blamed Ava, then finally blamed Olivia. "She pushed me away. She's always been jealous." When someone is cornered, truth isn't their instinct, survival is. And Caroline survived by rewriting reality. Even then, even exposed, some relatives believed her, because manipulation doesn't end when truth appears. It simply adapts. The question that ended everything. The final conversation between mother and daughter was quiet. No yelling, no drama, just exhaustion. Olivia looked at Caroline and asked one question. "When you decided to frame me, did you hesitate?" Caroline didn't answer immediately. She looked tired, older, but not remorseful. "I did what I had to do," she said. And that sentence ended their relationship permanently. Because it wasn't about the affair anymore. It was about choice. Caroline had chosen a man over her own child. And the most disturbing part? She believed she was justified. This wasn't just betrayal. It was strategic character assassination. A mother constructing evidence to protect her secret. A daughter losing everything before the truth surfaced. And a reminder that sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the person who raised you. If this story shocked you, if it made you uncomfortable, if it made you question how well you really know the people closest to you, subscribe. And tell me in the comments, at what moment did you realize who the real villain was?